So last week I celebrated the 5th anniversary of my ordination. It's hard to believe it's been 5 years. There were many moments of joy in rabbinic school. I'm thrilled that my daughter's now going to have that joy. She leaves for Israel on July 1st. Thankfully, I'll get to go to New York and give her a kiss before she leaves. One of the things I most enjoyed in rabbinic school was working on my rabbinic thesis. I knew what I wanted to write about right away. I went to my advisor and proposed my idea, and he said it was an original idea that no one had ever presented before. My idea was to discover the pressing social issues facing today's Jewish community through the lens of fiction. I have a bachelor's degree in English literature, and I know how often authors illuminate the issues of the day through the characters. So I got busy, and I started reading every novel I could find, every work of Jewish fiction that there was. So of course I had to set some parameters. I chose books written after the year 2000. I chose books that were written in English because translation offers another level of meaning and interpretation. And further, I was interested in American Jewry, people who might eventually be my congregants, so I looked for books written by Western authors. I also avoided books specifically related to the Holocaust, as that is a large genre of fiction, which could be a thesis in and of itself, and the same is true for Israel and Israeli writers. I searched Jewish book websites and Amazon. I have to say, I had a lot of fun shopping for fiction. And there are so many choices. If you don't know how vast the literature is with Jewish themes by Jewish writers, I do encourage you to delve into that. After reading many books and taking copious notes, 3 themes emerged. The first is Israel-related. The idea of Israel as a refuge, as a place of rejuvenation, a place of self-discovery. For many American Jews, making Aliyah isn't an option or a desire, but that idea that Israel is there for us if we need it, for any spiritual reason, was very appealing. The second theme relates very well to this weekend. It was about the relevance of Jewish fathers. What a breath of fresh air compared to Roth's Portnoy's Complaint, may he rest in peace, and others about the problems with Jewish mothers. 2 books by the same author who I was so happy to discover, Joshua Braff, 2 of the most brilliant pieces of literature I've ever read. He offered important insights to the powerful role that fathers play in our lives. I hope that you will, in honor of Father's Day this weekend, pick up one of Joshua Braff's novels. And finally, the third theme that emerged was the tension between Judaism and one's sexual orientation. One of the books that I studied 6 years ago, on this topic was Disobedience, now a major motion picture, which I viewed this past week. How many of you have seen the movie? Only 1 person. Good for you. How many of you read the book? That's what I thought. Nobody. So let me share a few thoughts. I had high hopes for the film, and I did appreciate how Jewish it was, with Hebrew and prayers recited. But of course, in my opinion, the book was better. But not just better. The movie dramatically changed the points of view and the themes upon which the characters were developed. The 2 main characters are Ronit and Esti. Ronit is the daughter of the Rav in her Orthodox community. She and her father struggle in their relationship, reminiscent of the father-son relationship in Chaim Potok's The Chosen, if you are familiar with that book. The parent and the child struggle to communicate. The Rav is so powerful and so busy taking care of his congregation and so focused on how things are supposed to be that he can't see his child for who she or he really is. Ronit ends up having to leave her community because she's gay. Esti, Ronit's childhood friend, is also gay. The 2 girls discover this when they're young. But when Ronit leaves, Esti stays behind and marries David. So I'll skip to the challenge. At the climax of the story, Esty finally has to make a choice. Does she join Ronit and leave her community? Does she come out? Or does she remain and make her marriage work? In the movie, it is her husband David who preaches to the congregation that God created human beings with choices, and that they are choices that even he doesn't understand, but he can't deny them. What makes the book so much more powerful is that it is Esty who speaks her truth to the congregation. It is Esty, a woman who speaks out loud to her Orthodox community about her sexual identity. She comes out and still chooses to remain married and within her Orthodox community, practicing Orthodox Judaism. She asks her community to accept her for who she is. So why did the movie makers take the words out of Esty's mouth and give them to David? Why did they decide to share his point of view instead of Esty's when the decisions were hers to make? I do not believe that the makers of the movie honored the book nor the author's intention. Not only did they take a woman's voice away, but they took away the voice of the gay community, which was the point of the book. June is National Pride Month, so designated to honor the 1969 Stonewall riots in Manhattan. I wonder if the makers of Disobedience released the movie this month intentionally. The LGBTQ community continues to strive for their own voice in our society, and especially within our Jewish community. Perhaps you remember the movie Trembling Before God, released in 2001. Anyone see that one? A few people. It was a groundbreaking film about homosexuality in the Orthodox community. Parents were disowning their children, and rabbis were preaching that it was not acceptable behavior. In the Reform movement, acceptance came earlier. 2 weeks ago, I had the pleasure of meeting Rabbi Denise Eger, the first openly gay rabbi in our country, who was ordained by Hebrew Union College in 1988. And yet the Reform movement didn't start accepting and ordaining gay rabbis until 1990, and it was Rabbi Eger who helped move them forward. It was 16 years later, in 2006, by the way, the same time this book was published, that the conservative movement accepted and began ordaining openly gay rabbis. The author of Disobedience, Naomi Alderman, offers this important observation about the tension between being Jewish and being gay through the voice of Ronit. I have been thinking about two states of being gay and being Jewish. They have a lot in common. You don't choose it, that's the first thing. If you are, you are. There's nothing you can do to change it. Some people might deny this, that even if you're only a little bit gay or a little bit Jewish, that's enough for you to identify yourself if you want. The second thing is that both of these states, gayness and Jewishness, are invisible, which makes it interesting. Because while you don't have a choice about what you are, you have a choice about what you show. You always have a choice about whether you out yourself. Every time you meet someone new, it's a decision. You always have a choice about whether you practice. Living an authentic life, expressing one's true self, and not being ashamed are ultimately what matters to these individuals. And isn't that true for everyone? Members of our own congregation, members of the Jewish community at large, are both Jewish and gay. They are raising children in our schools, reading Torah, donating their money and their time, becoming ordained rabbis and cantors, and marrying other Jewish gay people. Now, I can't really speak for the LGBTQ community or their current political situation, but I can and I will support them. In honor of Pride Month, I encourage you to see Disobedience, but even more so, please buy and read this book. May we all find acceptance in our complicated world, and may we all recognize that everyone is B'Tselem Elohim, created in the image of God. Thank you.